I deserve to be happy, even if it means hurting you. That's what my wife said after 31 years of marriage, right before I found out she'd secretly been using our daughter's house as a love nest for 6 agonizing months. My own daughter, Paula, helped her cheat on me, dismissing it later as just a harmless mistake. I'd been planning to surprise them, but the surprise ended up being on me. 2 weeks earlier, my wife, Karen, had texted me on a Thursday morning saying she was driving the 3 hours to spend the weekend with Paula and my son-in-law, Brandon, in Spokane. I told her to drive safely and have fun, feeling like a good husband. What she didn't know was that I'd already taken Friday off work. I was going to show up unannounced, a total surprise, because Paula's 30th birthday was Saturday. Brandon and I had even coordinated bringing the antique sewing machine that belonged to Karen's grandmother, the one Paula had been asking about for years. So, on Friday afternoon, I carefully loaded the wrap machine into my truck and started the 3-hour drive, listening to my true crime podcasts. I got to their quiet residential neighborhood just as the sun was dipping below the horizon. I pulled up in front of the 2-story colonial house with blue shutters, the one we'd helped them buy 4 years ago with the down payment we gifted them. I walked up the stone path, struggling a bit with the heavy wrapped gift, my heart full of anticipation for the look on their faces. And that's when it happened. Old Mrs. Patterson from next door came flying across her lawn in a bathrobe and slippers, waving her arms wildly and screaming at the top of her lungs, "Don't go in there. There's something you need to know." Her face was bright red, flushed with panic, and her eyes were wide with an awful mix of terror and pity. That expression, that look someone gives you right before your life changes forever, never means anything good. It only means things are about to get worse in ways you could never have imagined. 5 terrible minutes later, after she'd physically grabbed my arm, dragged me into her house, and breathlessly told me everything she'd witnessed over the last 3 days, I was standing in her living room, my phone shaking violently in my hand, calling 911. Mrs. Patterson stood right beside me, whispering urgently, "Are you doing the right thing?" In that terrifying instant, I understood that everything I believed about my family, my marriage, and my life was about to shatter, just like glass hitting concrete. My name is Daniel Foster. I'm 53 years old, and this is the story of how I uncovered my wife's deep betrayal, my daughter's unforgivable help in it, and how I made sure they both paid dearly for what they had done to me. I need to go back 3 weeks to give you the necessary context. Karen and I had been married for 31 years. We were high school sweethearts who got married young. We had Paula when I was 23 and built what I genuinely thought was a solid life together. I had a stable job as a civil engineer for the county with good benefits. Karen stayed home until Paula went to college, and then she worked part-time at a bookstore. She loved being around books and people. Our marriage wasn't flawless, but whose is? We certainly had rough patches, arguments about money, dealing with Paula's teenage rebellion, and the long illness of Karen's mother. But we always got through it. Or so I believed. We had a comfortable, familiar routine. Date nights when we could manage, Sunday morning coffee in bed, small kindnesses, and predictable patterns. Paula married Brandon 5 years ago. He's an insurance adjuster, a decent enough guy, if a little dull, but he treated Paula well, and that's truly what mattered. They bought the house in Spokane after Brandon was transferred there for work. It was a good distance. Not so close we were constantly underfoot, but near enough for regular visits. Karen had been making these weekend trips to Spokane more and more often over the last 6 months. Once a month turned into twice a month, and then nearly every other weekend. She'd give reasons like Paula needed help with a house project, or they were just going shopping, or simply that she missed her daughter. I never questioned any of it. I thought it was sweet, normal mother-daughter bonding. I was completely blind to the fact that those visits had absolutely nothing to do with Paula. 3 weeks before the confrontation, Karen started acting differently, distracted, almost secretive. She'd lost weight. She was wearing more makeup and bought new clothes. When I commented on how great she looked, she said she was just trying to take better care of herself. She realized she'd let herself go and wanted to feel attractive again. "You look great," I sincerely told her. "I'm glad you're feeling good about yourself." "Thanks, honey," she replied, but she couldn't bring herself to meet my eyes. 2 weeks before, I noticed she was texting constantly. She'd always used her phone, but this was a different level. She'd smile at the screen in a way that made a knot twist in my stomach, though I tried to convince myself I was just being paranoid. When I asked who she was texting, she quickly said it was Paula, planning a surprise for Brandon's birthday. I chose to believe her because, after 31 years, you assume the best. You trust your spouse. You don't suspect that every late-night text and secretive smile is a piece of evidence that will ultimately destroy your life. The Thursday she left for Spokane, she said goodbye just like any other time. "I'll be back Sunday night. I love you. I love you too. Tell Paul the first said hi." "I will." I watched her drive off in her Honda Pilot, thinking how fortunate I was to have a wife who was still so close to our daughter, who put in the effort to maintain family ties. I had been planning the surprise visit for 2 weeks. Paula's birthday was Saturday, and Brandon and I had coordinated bringing the sewing machine. We exchanged texts and emails to nail down the timing. He told me to come Friday night, assuring me Paula would be thrilled and Karen would love the surprise too. I should have paid closer attention to Brandon's texts. They were weirdly short, almost nervous, but I was preoccupied with transporting a fragile antique and excited about imagining their shocked faces. Friday afternoon, I loaded the truck and texted Brandon, on my way. Should be there around 6:30. His reply was just okay. Not, that's great. Or, I can't wait. Just okay. But I shrugged it off. I was already on the road, windows down, music playing, feeling good about surprising my family. The drive was beautiful. It was late September, and the leaves were starting to turn, that crisp weather that makes you feel alive. I stopped once for coffee and gas. I even texted Karen, how's the visit going? She didn't reply right away, but I figured she was busy with Paula. I reached Spokane just before 6:30, found the familiar neighborhood, and pulled up to the house with the blue shutters. Brandon's car was there. Karen's Pilot was parked on the street. Lights were on inside. Everything looked completely normal. I got out of the truck, went to the back, and wrestled the heavy, awkward sewing machine onto the path. I was nearing the front door, debating where to set it down to ring the bell, when I heard that woman yelling, "Wait! Stop! Don't go in there!" I turned and saw Mrs. Patterson running across her lawn. She was in her 70s, thin and wiry, usually friendly, but her face was now contorted with something urgent and utterly awful. "Mrs. Patterson," I said, setting the machine on the ground. "What's wrong?" She reached me, breathing heavily. "Mr. Foster, Daniel, there's something you need to know before you go in that house." My heart instantly started pounding a frantic rhythm. Is someone hurt? Is Paula okay? Nobody's hurt, but you need to know what's been going on. Come to my house, please. You need to hear this before you knock on that door. The tone, that mix of fear and pity, was paralyzing. It's the look people give you right before they detonate your world. "Just tell me," I insisted. "Out here." "No, please come inside. 5 minutes. That's all I need." A primal instinct deep inside me, the kind that recognizes danger before your mind catches up, screamed no. My legs felt like lead, but I followed her across the lawn into her house. She led me into her living room and gestured for me to sit. I remained standing. "Tell me," I demanded. Mrs. Patterson took a deep breath. "Your wife has been visiting." "Yes, but not to see Paula. She's been seeing another man. He comes to the house when Brandon's at work. They're in there together now. I've seen them arrive separately. I've seen them through the windows. I saw him kiss her goodbye. At first, I thought maybe he was a contractor or something. But then I saw how they were with each other, and I knew. I've been wrestling with whether to tell you. And then I saw you pull up, and I couldn't let you walk in there without knowing." The words struck me like physical blows. "What? No. Karen's in there with Paula." "Paula hasn't been home in 3 days," Mrs. Patterson said gently. "She and Brandon left on Wednesday morning with suitcases. I think they went on a trip. Your wife arrived Wednesday afternoon, and this man showed up about an hour later. They've been in that house together ever since." "That's impossible." "I know what she probably told you, but I'm telling you what I've seen. I live next door. I see everything. Your wife is having an affair, and your daughter's house is where they're meeting. I'm so sorry." I just stood there, my mind refusing to accept the information. This was madness. Karen would never cheat. Paula would never facilitate it. Mrs. Patterson must be mistaken. But the look on her face wasn't confusion. It was absolute certainty, coupled with compassion and devastation. "Who's the man?" I asked, my voice sounding hollow and far away. "I don't know his name. About 50s, salt and pepper hair, drives a black Mercedes, well-dressed. They look comfortable together, like they've been doing this for a while." My hand started shaking uncontrollably. I pulled out my phone, staring at it as if it might offer an answer. I should call Karen, confront her. But what if Mrs. Patterson was wrong? What if there was some innocent explanation? "You don't believe me," Mrs. Patterson said quietly. "I get it, but I wouldn't lie about something like this. I've been watching this all week, wondering if I should say something. I almost called you myself, but I thought maybe I was misreading it. But when I saw you pull up with that wrapped gift, looking so happy, I couldn't let you walk into that situation unprepared." "What should I do?" I asked, completely lost. "Call the police." "The police? Why? Infidelity isn't illegal." "No, but they're in your daughter's house without her permission. As far as I can see, Paula and Brandon are out of town. Your wife let this man into their home. That's trespassing. At the very least, it will force a confrontation with witnesses present. It will prevent violence or anyone claiming things happened that didn't. Trust me on this." I wrestled with it. My instinct was to storm the door, kick it down, and confront them both. But Mrs. Patterson was right. That could go wrong in 100 ugly ways. If I called the police, there would be official documentation. Witnesses. "Okay," I finally said. "I'll call." I dialed 911 with hands that simply would not stop trembling. The operator answered, 911. "What's your emergency?" "I need to report a trespassing situation. My daughter's house at 2847 Maple Street. There are people inside without her permission. She's out of town." "Are you at the location now?" "I'm next door. I was coming to visit. and the neighbor informed me of the situation. Are the individuals armed or dangerous? No, but I need officers here to document this. Sending a unit now. Stay where you are. Officers will arrive in 10 minutes. I hung up. Mrs. Patterson looked at me with those sad, knowing eyes. You're doing the right thing, she affirmed. I'm calling the police on my wife. I muttered, the absurdity hitting me. You're protecting yourself, and you're documenting the truth. When this goes to divorce court, and it will, you'll need every bit of evidence you can get. Divorce. The word broke something vital inside me. 31 years, 3 decades of marriage, completely obliterated because Karen decided to sleep with some guy in our daughter's house, while Paula conveniently made herself scarce. Does Paula know? I asked, the desperation audible. Is she part of this? Mrs. Patterson hesitated. I can't say for sure, but her leaving just as your wife arrived with bags for several days. It seems planned. I'm sorry. My daughter. My only daughter. She helped facilitate her mother's affair. She let Karen use her home as a love nest and lied to me about it. The betrayal was so complete, so absolute, I literally couldn't process it. My brain kept searching for any innocent explanation, but I knew in my gut there was none. I heard sirens in the distance. Mrs. Patterson heard them too. They're almost here, she said. Whatever happens next, remember that you didn't cause this. They did. All of them. The sirens grew louder. 2 police cruisers pulled up in front of Paula's house. 4 officers got out. I walked outside across the lawn, my legs moving on sheer autopilot. Are you the one who called? An officer asked. Yes, Daniel Foster. That's my daughter's house. She's out of town. My wife is inside with another man. They don't have permission to be there. How do you know they're inside? The neighbor witnessed them go in together. My wife's car is parked on the street. She told me she was visiting our daughter, but our daughter isn't home. And your daughter didn't give her permission to be in the house. Not that I know of, but I need to confirm what's happening. I need to see this. The officer looked at his partner, then at me, assessing whether I would be a problem. Whatever he saw made him nod. Stay behind us. Let us handle this. No contact until we say it's safe. Understood. We approached the house. The officers stood on either side of the door. One knocked loudly and authoritatively. Spokane police, open the door. Nothing happened for maybe 30 seconds. Then I heard movement inside. Voices, hurried footsteps. The door opened a crack, and there was Karen, wearing a robe I didn't recognize. Her hair was a mess. Her face was flushed. When she saw the police, she looked utterly confused. When she saw me standing behind them, her face went white with pure terror. Daniel, what are you? Ma'am, are you Karen Foster? The officer asked. Yes, but... Do you have permission to be in this residence? This is my daughter's house. I'm visiting. Your daughter, Paula, and her husband, Brandon, are out of town, correct? Karen's face cycled through every emotion: confusion, fear, guilt, panic. How do you? Is there another individual inside with you? This is not what. Ma'am, I need you to answer the question. Is there another person inside this residence? A man's voice called from behind her. What's going on? The officer's hand moved to his gun, not drawing it, but ready. Sir, come to the door now. A man appeared behind Karen. 50s, gray hair, expensive casual clothes, barefoot, looking both confused and intensely alarmed. Officers, what is this about? Are you the homeowner? No, I'm a friend. A friend of the owner? A friend of Karen's? And did the homeowner give you permission to be here? The man looked desperately at Karen as the situation finally hit him. This is her daughter's house, she said weakly. I'm the homeowner's father, I announced, stepping forward. My daughter Paula and my son-in-law Brandon are in Montana. They did not give permission for anyone to be in their home. I have their contact information. Call them. The officer looked at me, then at Karen and the man. Everyone step outside, please. They came out onto the porch. Karen was sobbing now. Daniel, please. Can I explain? Don't, I ordered. Don't say a single word to me. The officer separated us, started asking questions, got Paula's phone number from me, and called her. I could hear his side of the conversation. Miss Harper, this is Officer Suyabin with the Spokane Police. I'm at your residence. Are you aware that your mother and another individual are currently in your home? Did you give permission for both of them? I see. And when did you give this permission? Okay, thank you. He hung up and looked at me. Your daughter says she gave your mother permission to stay at the house while she was away. Says she's aware of the male guest. It's not trespassing if the homeowner gave permission. My world genuinely spun. You're telling me Paula knew? She gave them permission for this. According to her, yes. I stared at Karen, who was clinging to the robe, tears streaming down her face, then at the man, who looked mortified and defensive, and then back at the officer. Can I talk to my daughter? That's between you and her, sir. As far as we're concerned, no crime has been committed. The homeowner gave permission for the guests. This is a domestic situation, not a legal one. So, you're just going to leave? There's nothing we can do here. I'm sorry, sir. The officers started walking back to their cars. I stood there on my daughter's lawn, the absolute scale of the betrayal crushing me. Karen took a hesitant step toward me. Daniel, please let me explain. Who is he? I asked, my voice terrifyingly calm and cold. His name is Gregory. We met at the bookstore. How long? 6 months. And Paula knows. Karen nodded miserably. She knows. She offered to let us use the house when she and Brandon went on trips. She said she wanted me to be happy. She wanted you to be happy. The words tasted like bile. My daughter helped you cheat on me because she wanted you to be happy. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You've been sleeping with this guy in our daughter's house with her blessing for 6 months while lying to me about visiting Paula, making an utter fool out of me. I'm sorry, Karen sobbed. I never wanted to hurt you, but you did. You hurt me. You and Paula, both of you. You destroyed our family for this. I pointed at Gregory, who stood awkwardly in the doorway, looking like he desperately wanted to vanish. We can get through this, Karen pleaded desperately. Marriage counseling, we can fix it. There's nothing left to fix, I said, utterly final. We're done. Get your stuff and get out of my sight. I turned my back and walked straight to my truck. I got in, slammed the door, and just sat there, clutching the steering wheel, my vision blurred by tears of pure anguish and rage. Behind me, I could hear Karen's desperate sobs. I didn't care. I started the engine and drove away, leaving the antique sewing machine on the lawn, leaving my wife in the arms of her boyfriend, leaving the last shreds of my old life scattered like debris on that sterile suburban street. I drove for 20 minutes with no real destination. I finally pulled into the parking lot of a grocery store and sat there as the horrific reality of what had happened crashed over me again and again. My wife had been cheating on me for half a year. My daughter had helped her do it. They had both lied to me, pitted me, and treated me like some annoying obstacle to Karen's personal happiness instead of a husband and a person with feelings and rights. I called Paula. She answered on the third ring. Dad, the police called. Are you in Spokane? Yes. I came to surprise you for your birthday. Imagine my surprise when the neighbor told me about Mom's boyfriend. A moment of silence, thick and shameful. Then, Dad, can I explain? Explain what? That you've been helping Mom cheat on me? That you let them use your house as a love nest? That you've been lying to me for 6 months? It's not like that. Then what is it like, Paula? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like my daughter betrayed me to help my wife sleep with another man. Don't be crude. I shouldn't be crude. You're facilitating infidelity, and I'm the one who needs to watch my language. Mom was unhappy. She's been unhappy for years. She needed something for herself, something to make her feel alive. I couldn't watch her suffer anymore. So, you decided to help her destroy our marriage? Instead of talking to me? Instead of suggesting counseling? Instead of doing literally anything that didn't involve total deceit and betrayal? You wouldn't have understood. You would have made it all about you. It is about me. I'm her husband. When your spouse is unhappy, you talk about it. You work on it together. You don't sneak around behind their back with your daughter's help. Dad, I'm sorry you're hurt, but Mom deserves to be happy. She's given us her whole life. She deserves something for herself. And I don't. I've worked for 30 years to provide for this family. I've been faithful and present and supportive. But none of that matters because Mom needs to feel alive by sleeping with some guy named Gregory. His name is Greg, and he's actually very nice. I don't give a damn what his name is or how nice he is. He's sleeping with my wife, with your mother, and you helped make it happen. Do you understand what you've done? I helped Mom find happiness. You destroyed your parents' marriage. Congratulations, Paula. I hope Mom's happiness was worth it. I hung up, threw the phone onto the passenger seat, and sat there, shaking with the intensity of rage, grief, and disbelief. My daughter, my little girl, the child I'd raised, supported through college, helped buy a house. She had looked at her mother's affair and actively decided to facilitate it. Instead of protecting her father, she decided that Karen's happiness was the only thing that mattered. I thought back over the last 6 months, every time Karen drove to Spokane claiming she was visiting Paula. All those weekends I was home alone, believing my wife and daughter were out shopping or working on house projects. They were coordinating romantic getaways, lying to me in concert. Brandon had to have known, too. He'd been texting me about the birthday surprise, knowing his mother-in-law was in his house sleeping with her boyfriend. The entire family had conspired against me. I needed to think, needed to plan my next move. Going home to Seattle meant being alone in a house filled with memories and lies. Staying in Spokane meant possibly running into Karen or Greg, or having to explain myself to more neighbors. I checked into a hotel, got a room, sat on the bed, and started making lists. First, lawyer. I needed to file for divorce immediately, before Karen could empty bank accounts or hide assets. Second, document absolutely everything. Get Mrs. Patterson to write a sworn statement about what she witnessed. Subpoena Karen's phone records to show months of communication with Greg. Build an ironclad case. Third, figure out what to do about Paula. She was an adult. She made her own terrible choices. I couldn't control her, but I certainly didn't have to keep a relationship with someone who had betrayed me so profoundly. I called my brother Stephen. He lived in Portland and was a divorce lawyer, although he would refer me to someone else for my own case. Danny, what's going on? Karen's been having an affair. Paula helped her. I just found out. I'm in Spokane at a hotel. I need a lawyer. Now. Jesus, are you okay? No, but I need to move fast. Can you help me? Of course. I'll call a colleague in Seattle, someone who handles complex divorces. His name is Michael Brennan. He's a shark. I'll have him call you tomorrow. Thanks, Danny. I'm so sorry. This is truly awful. Do you need me to come up there? No. I just need to get through this. Call me if you change your mind. Anytime. We hung up. I ordered room service, ate mechanically without tasting anything, and spent the entire night researching Washington state divorce law. It was a no-fault state, meaning Karen's infidelity wouldn't automatically affect the division of assets, but it could certainly affect alimony, and it would absolutely affect my willingness to be generous. I barely slept, waking up every couple of hours with my heart pounding. By sunrise, I had made a firm decision. I was going to make Karen regret what she'd done, not with violence or revenge affairs or anything that would make me look bad, but through the systematic and methodical destruction of the life she'd built on her lies. Saturday morning, Paula's birthday, I drove back to Seattle. I went straight to the house I'd shared with Karen for 20 years. It looked exactly the same as when I left. Neat, comfortable, full of photos and memories of a marriage that had apparently been dead for at least 6 months. I started packing Karen's things. Not everything, just enough to make a very clear point. Clothes, toiletries, personal items. I boxed it all up and stacked them neatly in the garage. Then, I had the locks on the house changed. I canceled her credit cards that were attached to my name. I removed her as a beneficiary on my life insurance and retirement accounts. By Sunday afternoon, the time Karen would normally be returning from her visit with Paula, I had completely transformed the house from ours to mine. She called at 6 p.m. Daniel, I'm on my way home. I'm so sorry about Friday. Please, can we talk? I'm at the house. Come get your things from the garage. You don't live here anymore. What? Daniel, please. Your things are in boxes in the garage. The locks have been changed. You can stay with Paula or Greg or whoever you want, but you are not staying here with me. You can't just throw me out of my own house. Actually, I can. The house is in my name only. My parents gave us the down payment with the understanding that it was my inheritance. Check the deed. You have no legal claim on it. This is insane. I made a mistake, but we can work through it. Your mistake lasted 6 months and involved our daughter. That's not a mistake. That's a deliberate choice. A series of choices. And now I'm making mine. Please don't do this. Come get your things, or I'll donate them tomorrow. Your choice. I hung up. She called back 6 times in a row. I didn't answer a single one. An hour later, she arrived with Paula. I watched from the window as they loaded the boxes into Karen's Pilot. I saw Karen crying openly, Paula's arm around her, both of them staring at the house like they couldn't grasp what was happening. I could grasp it perfectly. This was the inevitable consequence of their choices. They had shattered the trust and destroyed a family. Now they had to live with the aftermath. They left. I locked the door and sat in the silent house that was now solely mine. It felt empty, but strangely clean, like a wound that had finally been lanced. Painful, but necessary for healing. Michael Brennan called Monday morning. We met at his office on Tuesday. He was in his late 40s, sharp and incredibly efficient. Stephen had already briefed him on the basics. Your wife had an affair. Your daughter facilitated it. You want a divorce. Lay it all out for me. I did. I told him everything. The 6-month affair, Paula's willing involvement, the police call, and my conversation where Paula admitted knowing and enabling it. Here's the reality. Michael said once I was done. Washington is a no-fault state. The affair doesn't affect the division of assets. You'll split everything 50-50ths, unless we can prove she wasted marital assets on the affair, expensive gifts, trips, things like that. Can you prove that? I can look at credit card statements, but I don't know what exactly I'm looking for. I'll have a forensic accountant look at it. As for alimony, you earn substantially more than she does. She could argue she's entitled to support. She works at a bookstore by choice. She could get a better job. Doesn't matter. The courts look at actual income, not potential. She'll argue she sacrificed career opportunities to raise Paula and support your career. Given the length of the marriage, she'll probably win some level of support. So, she cheats on me and she still gets my money? I asked, the unfairness stinging. Unfortunately, yes, but we can minimize it. We can argue for rehabilitative alimony only, temporary support while she gets back on her feet. And we can argue that her relationship with Greg affects her need for support, if he's supporting her. Are they living together? I don't know yet, but if they are, that's a bonus for us. We spent 2 grueling hours going over the strategy. Michael would file the divorce petition immediately. We would file for temporary orders preventing Karen from accessing certain accounts. We would subpoena phone records to document the affair. We would depose Paula if necessary to establish the timeline and the full extent of her involvement. One more thing, Michael said as we wrapped up. Understand this is going to get ugly. Karen will hire her own lawyer. They'll paint you as controlling, vindictive, and unreasonable. They'll argue you're wildly overreacting to a mistake. Can you handle that? I've been handling betrayal from the two people I trusted most in the world, I replied. I can handle whatever her lawyer throws at me. Good. Keep your head down. Don't contact Karen, not even once, except through me. Don't post anything on social media. Don't do anything that makes you look bad. Let her be the one who looks unreasonable. Understood. The divorce papers were filed on Thursday. Karen was served on Friday at the bookstore. According to the process server, she burst into tears and claimed, "There must be a mistake, that we were working things out. We were not working anything out. I was burning it all to the ground." The next 3 months were a war waged exclusively through our lawyers. Karen hired a lawyer named Patricia Gomez, who immediately began painting me as a vengeful, cold-hearted husband punishing Karen for seeking her own happiness. They filed motions claiming I'd illegally locked Karen out of the marital home, demanded I pay her rent for an apartment, and sought full, unfettered access to all accounts. Michael countered every motion immediately, pointing out the house was my separate property, that Karen had chosen to leave by engaging in an affair, and that she had family she could stay with. The judge split the difference, ruled the house was mine, but that I had to pay Karen temporary support of $2,000 a month until the divorce was finalized. Fine, I'd pay it, but I wouldn't give her $1 more than was legally required. The forensic accountant found evidence of waste. Over 6 months, Karen had spent $1,200 on new clothes, jewelry, hotel rooms, and dinners, all on credit cards I was paying for. She had literally been financing her affair with marital assets. Michael filed an amended petition seeking reimbursement for that waste. Karen's lawyer argued it was normal spending for a woman in her 50s trying to feel confident. Michael countered that it was spending explicitly to facilitate an affair and should be reimbursed to the marital estate. Discovery was brutal. We subpoenaed Karen's phone records, which showed thousands of texts and calls to Greg's number. We subpoenaed her email, finding sickening love notes and explicit messages. We deposed Paula, who admitted under oath that she'd known about the affair from the very beginning. She confessed to offering her house as a meeting place and lying to me repeatedly to cover for her mother. Did you feel any guilt about lying to your father? Michael asked during the deposition. I felt bad, Paula said, sounding small. But I felt worse watching my mom be unhappy. She gave up everything for us. She deserved to have something that made her happy, even if that something was infidelity. She tried to talk to Dad about her problems. He didn't listen. When did she try to talk to him? I don't know specific dates, but she told me she tried. Did you ever witness these attempts? No. So, you're relying entirely on your mother's characterization of her attempts to communicate with your father? Yes. Did it occur to you that your mother might be justifying her affair, claiming she tried to fix the marriage when in fact she hadn't? Objection, Patricia interjected. Calls for speculation. I'll rephrase. Did you ever ask your father if your mother had tried to discuss issues in their marriage? No. Why not? Because I believed my mom. The deposition made it painfully clear that Paula had chosen a side without ever once trying to get my perspective. She had accepted Karen's version of events as gospel and made life-altering decisions based on that blind faith. I had wanted to attend the deposition, but Michael advised against it. You'll just get angry, and it won't help. Let me handle it. He was right. Reading the transcript was difficult enough. Hearing Paula defend her actions while throwing me under the bus would have been unbearable. Karen and I were required to try mediation before trial. We met at a neutral office with a mediator, both lawyers present. It was the first time I'd seen Karen since the night I left Spokane. She looked terrible, thin, tired, older than her 52 years. She tried to catch my eye as we sat down. I kept my gaze fixed on my notepad. The mediator explained the process. We'd discuss each issue, property division, support, retirement accounts, and attempt to reach a settlement. If we couldn't, we'd go to trial. Let's start with the house, the mediator said. Mr. Foster claims it's his separate property. Mrs. Foster, what's your position? I lived there for 20 years, Karen said, her voice cracking. I maintained it, decorated it, made it a home. I should get half of its value. The house was purchased with a down payment from my parents as my inheritance, I stated. Karen contributed nothing to the purchase. I contributed my labor, she countered. Which you did as my wife, not as a co-owner. The deed is in my name only. Washington law is clear that property acquired by gift or inheritance remains separate unless explicitly commingled. So I get nothing? After 30 years of marriage, I get nothing? You get half of everything we acquired during the marriage. The house isn't part of that. Karen started to cry again. Patricia put a comforting hand on her arm. This is exactly the kind of vengeful behavior we expected. It's not vengeful, Michael cut in sharply. It's following the law. The house is separate property. Mrs. Foster has no claim to it. We went back and forth for 3 brutal hours. I agreed to split the retirement accounts 50/50ths, even though most of the balance came from my earnings. I agreed to give Karen her car outright. I agreed to split the furniture and personal property, but I would not budge on the house or on limiting support. I offered her 3 years of rehabilitative support at $1,500 a month. She demanded 10 years at $3,000 a month. You're trying to punish me, Karen said at one point, looking directly at me for the first time, her eyes pleading. You're using the divorce to hurt me because I hurt you. I'm protecting myself, I said, utterly calm. You spent 6 months lying to me, stealing from our accounts to finance an affair, and recruiting our daughter to help you. I don't owe you anything beyond what the law requires. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Every time you texted Greg, every time you drove to Spokane, every time you looked me in the eye and lied, those were choices. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I never wanted things to go this far. What did you think would happen? That I'd find out and be okay with it? I thought we could work it out, go to counseling, fix things. You don't fix a marriage by completely destroying it first. We didn't reach an agreement. The mediator scheduled a second session for the following month. We left separately. Karen was openly crying in the parking lot with Patricia. I walked to my car, feeling nothing but a cold, hard relief that I had held my ground. Michael called that night. You did great today. You didn't lose your temper. You didn't give them any ammunition. Patricia is going to push for trial if we don't settle, but I think Karen will break before then. She really doesn't want to testify under oath about the affair in front of a judge. And if she doesn't break, then we go to trial and we win. The evidence is overwhelming. She committed adultery, wasted marital assets, involved her daughter in the deception. No judge is going to reward that behavior. And Paula, what about her? Is there anything I can do about her involvement? Legally, no. She's an adult. She didn't break any laws. Morally, she behaved terribly, but there's no legal recourse. I haven't spoken to her since the initial phone call. She's tried to reach out, but I've ignored her. That's your right. You're not obligated to maintain a relationship with someone who betrayed you, even if that person is your child. She's been posting on Facebook about how hurt she is that I'm cutting her out, playing the victim. Block her. Don't engage. Let her tell whatever false story she wants. You know the truth. I'd already blocked Paula on social media, but her friends had started contacting me, asking what happened, why I was being so incredibly cold to my daughter during such a difficult time. I ignored them all. Let them think what they wanted. My reputation with Paula's social circle was the least of my concerns. The second mediation session a month later went no better than the first. Patricia had obviously coached Karen to be more aggressive, to demand what she felt was owed rather than what was fair. It completely backfired. You had an affair, I said flatly when she demanded half the value of the house. You destroyed our marriage. You don't get a reward for that. I spent 30 years supporting you. Just take your half of the assets and move on. You have no heart, she spat. I'm practical. We're getting a divorce because you were unfaithful. That has consequences. We ended the session with zero progress. Patricia told Michael she'd be requesting the trial. We'll see you in court, she sneered as she packed her briefcase. Looking forward to it, Michael replied, utterly unconcerned. The trial was set for 6 weeks away. Michael spent those weeks preparing witnesses, organizing evidence, and crafting arguments. I spent mine working, going to the gym, trying desperately to construct a life that wasn't consumed by betrayal and anger. I even dated a woman named Laura for 3 weeks before I realized I simply wasn't ready. She was kind about it when I ended things. Call me if you change your mind, she said. But take some time to really heal first. She was right. I wasn't healed. I was just numb. 2 weeks before trial, Patricia called Michael with a settlement offer. Karen would accept 4 years of support at $2,000 a month, half the retirement accounts, her car, and half the personal property. Crucially, she would waive all claims to the house. She caved, Michael said when he called me. She doesn't want to testify. Greg probably doesn't want to testify either. Take the deal. 4 years is more than you wanted, but it's not 10, and $2,000 is less than 3. You're paying $96,000 total on a 30-year marriage with your income disparity. That's a win, Daniel. I thought about it. 4 years of payments, $96,000, a number I could absolutely live with if it meant being completely done. Okay, I said. I'll take it. The agreement was drafted, signed, and submitted to the court. The judge approved it without a hearing. Just like that. 31 years of marriage were dissolved in a simple legal document dividing assets and assigning obligations. Karen sent me an email after the decree was final. I know you'll never forgive me, but I want you to know I never stopped loving you. I just got lost and made terrible choices. I'm sorry for the pain I caused. I hope someday you find happiness again. I deleted it without a second thought. I didn't want her apology. I certainly didn't want her love. I wanted her gone from my life. And now she was. Paula kept trying to reach out. Emails, voicemails, even a physical letter sent to the house. They all contained the same desperate plea. She was sorry I was hurt, but she continued to defend her decision to help Karen, and she hoped we could eventually rebuild our relationship. I finally responded with a single, brutal email. You chose your mother over me. You facilitated her affair, and you lied to me for 6 months. I don't forgive that. Don't contact me again. She stopped. Or perhaps she did, and I blocked it before I could even see it. Brandon sent me a message a few months after the divorce was final. I understand you're mad at Paula. I don't blame you, but I want you to know I wasn't aware of the extent of what was happening. I knew Karen was visiting, but I thought it was just mother-daughter time. When I found out Greg was there, I was as shocked as you. I didn't believe him for a second. He'd been texting me, coordinating the birthday surprise, knowing his mother-in-law was in his house sleeping with her boyfriend. He knew something, but I didn't have the emotional energy left to argue with him. I just replied, okay. A year after the divorce, I sold the house. It was too big for one person and too full of ghosts. I bought a condo downtown, modern and impersonal, a place where I could truly start over without any memories. I tried dating, but nothing lasted. The damage to my trust was too severe. Every time a woman seemed interested, I found myself instinctively looking for signs that she was lying, hiding something, waiting to betray me. They're not all Karen, my therapist, Dr. Williams, said repeatedly. You're punishing new people for her mistakes. I'm protecting myself, I insisted. You're isolating yourself. There's a big difference. Maybe she was right, but isolation felt infinitely safer than vulnerability. I heard through mutual friends that Karen and Greg had broken up. Apparently, once the affair was exposed and no longer a secret, it lost all its appeal. Karen was living alone in an apartment, working at a different bookstore, trying to put her life back together. Part of me felt a grim satisfaction at that news. A larger part just felt profoundly tired. Paula had a baby, a girl. She sent me an announcement, a picture of the baby with the name Sophia written in beautiful calligraphy. I looked at the picture of my granddaughter and felt absolutely nothing. I should have felt joy, or at least curiosity. Instead, I felt only the immense distance that had grown between Paula and me. I didn't respond to the announcement, didn't send a gift, didn't acknowledge the birth in any way. Paula was a stranger to me now, someone I used to know who had proven untrustworthy. Her daughter was a stranger's child. More time passed. I got promoted at work. I bought a new truck. I traveled to places I'd always wanted to see. I built a life that was entirely my own, uncomplicated by other people's needs or outright lies. 2 years after the divorce, on what would have been my 33rd wedding anniversary, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line was, "I'm sorry." I almost deleted it immediately, but some deep compulsion, made me open it. Dad, I know you don't want to hear from me. I respect that, but I need you to know something. Sophia is sick. She has leukemia. We caught it early, and the prognosis is good, but she needs bone marrow. Brandon and I aren't a match. We've checked the registry, but we haven't found a donor yet. I'm asking you, begging you, if you'd get tested. You're her grandfather. You could be a match. I know I don't deserve your help. I know I destroyed our relationship, but Sophia is innocent. Please, for her. Paula. I read it 3 times, my heart sinking. My granddaughter had leukemia. A 2-year-old child was sick and desperately needed help. And Paula was asking me, the father she betrayed, to potentially save her. My first instinct, raw and powerful, was to delete the email and forget about it. Paula had made her choices. I had made mine. We were finished. But a 2-year-old with cancer hadn't made any choices. Sophia hadn't betrayed me. She was just a sick little girl who needed help. I thought about it for 2 miserable days, then called Dr. Williams and talked it all through. What do you want to do? She finally asked. I don't know. Part of me wants to help because she's my granddaughter and she's sick. Part of me wants to refuse because it would hurt Paula, and I want Paula to hurt like I hurt. That's very honest. So, which part do you want to listen to? The question isn't which part one wants to listen to. It's which part one can live with. I was a match, not perfect, but close enough to be a viable donor. The transplant coordinator explained the process. It would involve surgery, general anesthesia, and recovery time. There were risks, though minimal for a healthy adult. When do you need an answer? I asked. We need to schedule soon. The child's condition is stable, but it could deteriorate. The sooner the better. I'll do it, I said, the words feeling heavy and final. We'll have to contact the family. I am the family. The patient is my granddaughter. Her mother is my daughter, Paula Harper. The coordinator paused. I see. We'll coordinate with the family then. Thank you for being willing to donate. I hung up and sat in my condo, feeling something break open inside me. I was going to save Sophia, but that meant seeing Paula again. It meant being connected to this family I had worked so hard to cut off. The hospital contacted Paula. She called me immediately. Dad, they said you're a match. They said you're willing to donate. Is it true? Yes. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're saving her life. I'm doing it for Sophia, not for you. I know. I understand, but still, thank you. I'll make the donation, but that doesn't mean we're reconciled. That doesn't mean I forgive what you did. I'm helping a sick little girl. That's all. I get it. Whatever terms you want. Just thank you. The surgery was scheduled for 3 weeks later. I went through the pre-op appointments, the health screenings, the counseling sessions where they made absolutely sure I understood the risks and was doing this voluntarily. The day of the surgery, Paula was at the hospital with Brandon. She tried to hug me when she saw me. I stepped back. Don't, I said. Right? Sorry. It's just, I'm so grateful. How's Sophia? She's stable. The doctors are optimistic. Good. We sat in awkward, tense silence until they called me back. The surgery went smoothly. They harvested bone marrow from my hip, processed it, and prepared it for transplant. I woke up sore and groggy and was kept overnight for observation. Paula visited my room, standing awkwardly in the doorway, looking uncertain. They'll transplant the marrow tomorrow morning, she said. The doctors are confident it will take. Good. Dad, I know you don't want to talk about us, but I need to say something. I was wrong about everything. I should have talked to you about Mom being unhappy. I should have tried to get you both to counseling. I shouldn't have helped her have an affair. I told myself I was supporting Mom, but really, I was just taking the easy way out. It was easier to help her sneak around than to confront the real, difficult problems. I'm sorry. Truly I am. I looked at my daughter. She was 32 now, a mother, and she was finally beginning to understand that being a parent means making difficult, honorable choices, not enabling bad ones. You hurt me more than Karen did, I said, the pain still sharp. Because you were my daughter. I expected Karen's betrayal eventually, but I never expected yours. I know. I was selfish. I wanted Mom to be happy, and I didn't think about what it would cost you. Do you get it? Now that you're a mother, would you want someone to help Brandon cheat on you? No. God, no. I'd be devastated. That's what you did to me. Paula's tears were real this time, not manipulative. I know I can't undo it, but I want to try to make it right. Not back to the way things were, because we can't, but to build something new, if you're willing. I was quiet for a long, heavy moment. The anger that had sustained me for 2 years was still there, but it was exhausted. I was tired of hating. Holding on to that rage was utterly draining. I can't forgive you, I said finally. Not yet. Maybe never. But I can be in the same room with you for Sophia's sake. Maybe that's enough for now. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. Paula left. I lay in the hospital bed, thinking about choices and the devastating consequences. About how betrayal damages trust in ways that never truly heal. About how becoming a grandfather changes your priorities, whether you welcome it or not. Sophia's transplant was a complete success. The marrow took, and her prognosis improved dramatically. She'd need monitoring for years, but the doctors were optimistic about a full recovery. I visited her once in the hospital. I saw this tiny little girl with tubes and monitors, fighting a disease she was far too young to understand. She looked at me with Karen's eyes and Paula's smile, and something fundamental shifted inside me. I couldn't hate Paula forever. Not when her daughter needed me. I couldn't hold a crushing grudge when life itself was so fragile. Paula and I began to talk, cautiously, with very clear boundaries. I never asked about Karen. She never pushed for more than I was willing to give. We focused intensely on Sophia, her treatments, her progress, her future. I met Sophia when she was 3, post-recovery. She was shy but incredibly sweet, curious about the grandpa she'd never known. I brought her books and toys, visited her for short periods, carefully trying to figure out how to be present without getting consumed by the past. It wasn't reconciliation. It was something entirely new. A relationship built on raw truth instead of comfortable lies. On clear boundaries instead of dangerous assumptions. Paula knew exactly where she stood. I knew where I stood. And Sophia got to have a grandfather who showed up when it mattered the most. 3 years after the divorce, Karen sent another email. I heard you saved Sophia, that you donated marrow. Thank you for being there for Paula and Brandon when they needed help. I know you did it for Sophia, not for me, but still. Thank you. I'm proud of the man you are. Even if I destroyed our chance to be together, you deserved better than what I gave you. This time, I didn't delete it. I read it. I allowed myself to acknowledge that Karen had finally learned something from her monumental mistakes, and then I simply moved on. For years after the divorce, I met someone. Her name was Catherine. She was a landscape architect, divorced, with no children. We met at a professional gathering. We started talking about design and projects, and the conversation flowed effortlessly and naturally. We dated slowly. I was brutally honest about my history, the betrayal, the lingering anger, and the agonizingly slow process of healing. She was patient, understanding, and secure enough in herself not to take my caution personally. I'm not your ex-wife, Catherine said one day after I'd been particularly guarded about something minor. I'm not going to lie to you or cheat on you. But you have to decide if you're willing to trust again, or if you're going to spend the rest of your life alone because Karen broke something in you. She was perfectly right. I had a choice. Stay broken or risk being hurt again. Stay safe and alone, or be vulnerable and potentially build something truly real. I chose to be vulnerable. It was terrifying and uncomfortable, and sometimes I still searched for signs that she was deceiving me. But Catherine was patient with my damage, and slowly, painstakingly, I learned to trust again. We got married 5 years after my divorce. It was a small ceremony, just close friends and family. Paula came with Brandon and Sophia. It was awkward, but we managed. We were building something civilized, if not close. Karen didn't attend. I didn't invite her, but she sent a card wishing us well, which I genuinely appreciated for what it was, an acknowledgement that we had both moved on. Life settled into comfortable new patterns. Catherine and I bought a house together, merged our lives, and built a partnership based on absolute honesty and clear communication. I stayed connected to Sophia. I watched her grow into a bright, healthy child who called me Grandpa Dan and constantly asked for stories about when her mom was little. Paula and I remained cordial. We would never be close in the way we'd been before her betrayal. That fundamental trust was gone forever, but we could be family in a different way. Present at important moments, supportive when absolutely necessary, and always respectful of boundaries. 6 years after the divorce, I ran into Greg at a restaurant. He was with a woman, looking happy and relaxed. He saw me, and his expression instantly twisted into uncertainty. "Daniel," Greg said, "this is my wife, Maria." I shook her hand. "Nice to meet you." "I didn't know you two knew each other," Maria said, puzzled. "We don't really," I said calmly. "Greg dated my ex-wife briefly." "Oh," Maria said, her face falling slightly. "Well, small world." It was awkward for about 30 uncomfortable seconds. Then I excused myself and returned to my table where Catherine was waiting. "Was that Greg?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "Yes." "How do you feel?" "Nothing," I said, realizing it was absolutely true. "He's just some guy who had an affair with my ex-wife 6 years ago. It doesn't matter anymore." And it truly didn't. The white-hot anger had finally burned itself out. The betrayal was history. Karen and Greg were simply people I used to know who had hurt me, and then faded into total irrelevance. 7 years after the divorce, Karen reached out, asking if we could meet for coffee. I almost said no, but a strange curiosity won out. We met at a neutral coffee shop. Karen looked older, tired, but she seemed peaceful. We sat across from each other with lattes that neither of us really wanted. "Thank you for meeting me," Karen said. "I wasn't sure you would." "I wasn't sure either. What did you want to talk about?" "I wanted to apologize. A real apology, not just sending emails. You deserved better than what I gave you during our marriage and during the divorce. I was selfish and cruel, and I justified my terrible behavior by telling myself I deserved to be happy. I'm sorry. I know, I'm sorry doesn't fix anything, but I needed you to hear it face to face. And I wanted you to know I'm in therapy now, finally working on understanding why I did what I did. I'm trying to be a better person than the one who hurt you." "How's that going?" "Hard, but necessary. I see Sophia regularly now. Paula and I are slowly rebuilding our relationship. I'm trying to be the mother and grandmother I should have been, instead of the selfish woman I was." "Good. Sophia is a great kid. She deserved better than what happened." "She does. And so did you. I'm truly sorry, Daniel." I looked at this woman I had loved for 3 decades. This near stranger who had annihilated our marriage and then vanished into my past. I felt nothing but a mild sadness for the years we'd both wasted. "I appreciate the apology," I said. "I'm glad you're doing better, but we are not going to be friends. We are not going to have a relationship beyond being Sophia's grandparents at the same events. That's all I can give you." "I understand. That's more than I deserve." We finished our coffee, making impersonal small talk about Sophia, Paula, and the weather. Then we went our separate ways, two people who used to be married, acknowledging that they had both finally moved on. Catherine asked how it went when I got home. Fine. She apologized. I accepted it. We're done. Done angry or done peaceful? Done as in I don't think about her anymore. She's not my wife. She's not my problem. She's just someone I used to know who taught me a very hard lesson about trust. That's healthy. Took long enough. 8 years after the divorce, the final alimony payment was made. $96,000 over 4 years. The last check cleared, and I felt a profound sense of finality. The legal ties were completely severed. The financial obligations were met. Karen was truly gone from my life, except as Sophia's grandmother. I never spoke to her again except in brief passing at Sophia's birthday parties and school events. We were cordial, brief, and distinctly distant. The old rage had burned itself out years ago, replaced by a deep, quiet indifference. Paula and I remained cautiously connected. We would never be what we were before, but we had found a new, stable equilibrium. I was Sophia's grandfather. I showed up for important events. I sent gifts and cards. I was present, but not intimate. That was enough. One night, 9 years after the divorce, Catherine asked if I ever actually forgave Karen and Paula. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I'm not angry anymore, but forgiveness implies something I'm not sure I feel." "What do you feel then?" "Acceptance. They did what they did. I responded how I responded. We all survived. We're all building different lives now. Maybe that's better than forgiveness. Maybe it is, Catherine agreed softly. 10 years after the divorce, I got an email from Mrs. Patterson. I'm moving to assisted living, and I'm cleaning out my house. I found a package in my garage that I think was for your daughter. It's been there since that night the police came. Would you like me to ship it to you? The sewing machine. The antique I brought to surprise Paula for her 30th birthday. It had been sitting in Mrs. Patterson's garage for a decade. Yes, I replied. Please send it. It arrived 2 weeks later, still meticulously wrapped in the moving blankets I'd used to protect it. I unwrapped it carefully. The sewing machine was intact, beautiful, functional, a piece of family history that should have been a joyful gift, but instead became a painful symbol of betrayal. I thought about giving it to Paula, 10 years too late. I thought about the gesture meaning something about forgiveness and family, but that felt fake. I didn't want grand gestures or symbolic moments. Instead, I gave it to Catherine. It was my grandmother's, I told her. It should stay in the family, but with someone who will appreciate it for what it is, instead of what it represents. Catherine understood completely without me having to explain any further. She set it up in her studio, used it for her design work, and the sewing machine became part of a new, healthy story instead of being tragically trapped in an old one. That felt right. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just moving on with the pieces you had and building something new from the wreckage that was left. 10 years after that terrible night in Spokane, I looked at my life, and I saw something I hadn't possessed during my marriage: honesty. My relationship with Catherine was built entirely on truth. My relationship with Paula was cautious but clear. My relationship with Sophia was utterly uncomplicated by the past. It was all real. Nothing was an act. The revenge I got wasn't dramatic or cathartic. It was simply this: I built a far better life without Karen than I ever had with her. I found a happiness that didn't require lies, secrets, or betrayal. I learned to trust again, slowly and carefully, with someone who earned it. Karen lived her life with the knowledge that she'd wantonly destroyed something real for something that turned out to be meaningless. Greg had moved on. Paula had learned hard, agonizing lessons. And Karen was alone with the full consequences of the choices she'd made years ago. That was revenge enough. Not destruction, but demonstration. Not punishment, but proof that she hadn't broken me. She had just painfully redirected me towards something infinitely better. Sophia turned 12. We celebrated at Paula's house. The whole complicated family was there. Brandon, Paula, me, Catherine, even Karen, awkwardly present in the background. Sophia blew out the candles and made a wish, looking around at the people surrounding her with innocent eyes that didn't know the terrible history that connected us all. She would never know about that night a decade ago when her grandfather almost walked through a door that would have shown him something he couldn't possibly unsee. She would never know about the crushing betrayal, the bitter anger, and the long, arduous road to something like peace. She just knew she had a family that was complicated and imperfect, but present, and maybe that was truly enough. That night, driving home with Catherine, I thought about the man I had been 10 years ago, the man who had trusted completely and been shattered by that trust. The man who had stood in Mrs. Patterson's living room calling the police on his own wife as his world completely collapsed. That man was gone, replaced by someone harder, but so much wiser. Someone who knew that trust is earned, not simply given. That love requires truth as a foundational principle. That families can be painfully rebuilt, even after they're utterly broken. The revenge wasn't what I thought it would be. It wasn't Karen's suffering or Paula begging for forgiveness or some dramatic reckoning. It was quieter than that. It was me sitting in a car with my wife, heading home to a house we'd bought together, living a life built on pure honesty. While Karen lived alone with her choices, and Paula lived with the constant knowledge that she'd sacrificed her relationship with her father for a lie. That was the revenge I had won. By surviving, by meticulously rebuilding, by refusing to let their betrayal define my life. They had lost by destroying something irreplaceable and spending the rest of their lives knowing they had done it. And somewhere in Spokane, Mrs. Patterson was in an assisted living facility, still telling the story about the night she saved a man's life by telling him the truth. Given the depth of betrayal and the eventual, albeit distant, reconciliation, was Daniel's decision to deny Paula a close, loving relationship with him, even after she showed true remorse, a justified act of self-preservation, or did his lingering resentment ultimately punish an innocent granddaughter who deserved both her grandfather's love and a fully healed family? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Share your thoughts about this story in the comments.